Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where we look to empower and encourage real conversation amongst men everywhere by unpacking topics on self-help, philosophy, and business. Okay, welcome to the Simple Minds podcast. This is Matt J. Hannam with you, your host today, and I'm joined by a motley crew of lads. Let's go in reverse order. Number one, Haydo, you're not here. Good for you. See you later. To my other side of that, Haydo. Haydo's, where is he? Sydney, he's over there. JB, Justin Bourne.
What's up?
The man, the myth.
The legend.
Nice to have you with us.
Thanks, mate.
Mr. Jacob Moffat, the prophet.
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here.
It's exceptional to have you here today. And you've been very vocal.
You're welcome.
Which is a great start.
What's with that? It's like
Conrad Francis.
I'm listening to a chess tournament being called.
You grace us with your presence once more.
I'm reconsidering my presence.
He's transcending.
Anyway, gents, welcome. I'm probably redlining everybody there. But today we have pre-poured the drink just to speed things along a little bit. So we shall share a small tipple of monkey shoulder.
We've had this before on this show.
Of course we have.
We'll revert back to
I
that
just wondered
episode.
if you had another point.
No?
Oh, it's straight off the shelf.
We've it's straight off the shelf, straight off the monkey shoulder, so to speak.
At least it's
There's
not
some
that
delightful
bloody...
little monkeys on top of the bottle. For those of you,
I'm not sure how that symbol would come about, given the fact that monkeys have quite large
tails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's the 27th batch, so I guess they'll soon figure it out. But anyway, enjoy.
You're just having it straight from the bottle.
Indeed. And we shall jump in today's
Cheers.
topic. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers, fellas.
You're enjoying your attempt at a radio voice there, Conrad.
I'm just taking a
That's
piss out of you, mate.
sweet.
I've got a good voice for radio. I've got a good head for it too.
Actually, you'd be a good mime.
Mine.
Marcel.
You're quite light on your feet. So the topic today is, how to structure your week, how to structure your life for success, or maybe maybe how to not structure your week or life for success. But
Take me back 10 years and I can tell you exactly that.
yeah. So look, I guess this topic was derived from, we often talk about, morning rituals, sleep and other habits, but on a sort of broader scale of a week, how much are we really getting done? What do we fit in? What do we, how much time do we waste, and what do we waste time on? And I wanted to unpack that. So for some context into my personal sort of struggles with time, and we've got a new baby boy, Nicholas, in the house. He's 5 weeks old, which is fantastic, but he's our third child, and we have a pretty busy home life because of that. Adding that to obviously running a business and having quite a lot of activities going on, even like this podcast, like my own podcast, there's a lot that has to happen in a day, a week, a month.
Do some work.
And you got to do some work too. And especially in the first few weeks. Now, I've obviously taken time off, so to speak. I don't like a complete break of work kind of ever. I like to be able to just mix being away and traveling and still keeping just a touch on. I never walk away from say the business for like a month or 6 weeks with no connection whatsoever. But
Is that a good thing?
that I don't.
Oh, well, I can't do it. I mean, but everyone judges me. So you got to go on a holiday. I'm thinking, well, I don't dislike what I fucking do.
No, so I like to, yeah, exactly. I don't want to have to completely switch off. I don't see there's any point to it. I quite enjoy having just a little bit to do.
But your partner's got to understand that, right?
Yeah, well, we've done that for a long time. And the truth of it is either it happens or we don't go on the trips, because when you're running a small business operation, even if, as is my case, most of what needs to happen can happen without me, but someone still needs to have an eye on the top level of the game. And we have this technology now that allows us to do that. I mean, 20, 30, 50 years ago, you couldn't do that. If you were away from your business operation, well, you couldn't see anything. All the data that you would get would be days or weeks old.
Video cameras everywhere.
Not 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You didn't have that. It would have cost you a fortune.
Yeah, okay.
And you can email and Slack and direct message, and you can, like, I can, in 20, 30 minutes, well, in 10 minutes, I can have a complete view of what's happened over the last 48 hours from remote. So anyway, where was I? I really struggled in the first couple of weeks.
You did have email 20 years ago, by the way. We did have email 20 years ago.
Yeah, but not on our phones the same way, not to the same level of flexibility and technological sort of prowess that we have. I mean, for those, you would have had an email 20 years ago. These guys didn't. But 20 years ago, you could only access it on your PC at work.
Yes.
You couldn't, and if you wanted to do some sort of remote login, you were on a VPN, never worked. Like, there was all kinds of challenges. It wasn't something that you could just be in a hotel somewhere in the world and just quickly log in and get an email or a message. So, I really struggled early on in the first few weeks because I was really, I guess, at a point where I hadn't achieved a lot of what I wanted to achieve before the baby Nicholas came along a little bit early, which was unfortunate. But it wasn't that; it was that I hadn't got it done, and I found it pretty challenging early on. And really, I guess it's difficult to be focused everywhere at all times, and sort of prioritization in advance, with the flexibility to pivot is kind of paramount. But I sometimes have struggled significantly with that. What I guess I'm most trying to improve on is my emotional management. Like a short example is like getting organised and getting the kids to school in the morning, the couple of hours that it might take to get there. By the time you land in the office at 9:45, you're spent. Like they have the ability to just like wipe your energy out. Then you get to work and you've got to like roll through a day. So I don't think people talk about this a lot necessarily. And I think it's something that we really should just talk about and share a bit more. And the crux of it is that there's always a conflict between sort of family values and your ambition and success. And they don't have to be, they're not in conflict with each other, but they're in conflict with and for your time and your focus and your energy. And that's the thing I found the most challenging. So I wanted to talk to you guys about how you structure a week. We all have different levels of responsibilities, and how we prioritize and what we prioritize at the top, and I guess how we sort of break that down and keep ourselves honest. And do you have a similar challenge that I have at times in emotionally managing yourself? And what I mean by that is, if I've got half an hour to work or an hour to work, sometimes I might get to that point, but I'm just not in the headspace to be able to utilize that time. And that is, I guess, a mistake, or there was an opportunity to be in a better headspace to use that time more wisely. So, any thoughts?
I don't beat myself up over it. I mean, my mum jokes about me. I generally put family time. It's the first thing in my diary anyway. And when I do have time with my mum, I do have my phone out from time to time, and she'll have a crack at me about not being present. Funnily enough, it only happened this week again, but my sister came and joined us for dinner, and mum was jokingly saying, Conrad doesn't chat, he's just on his phone. And lo and behold, it wasn't Conrad on his phone, it was his sister on the phone. And I said, and when I pointed out to my mum I wasn't on my phone, she justified Darlene being on her phone because she's a busy woman. But onwards from that, I do prioritise time with my family, and I do value the technology, because I don't believe I'd be able to get as much time with my family and friends as I would have done if I didn't have my technology working for me. And I think sometimes it's harder for some people to understand that, particularly people that have had the 9 to 5 mentality, and the definitive line in the sand between work and life, or work in their play.
I find I think it'll be important for us to define what success is, and we'll get to that shortly. But for me, I find a successful week is where I can set my phone down or switch off from that like work or kind of vision mindset and enjoy time with family, knowing like I feel I've done everything I could this week to succeed and progress towards my vision and mission, and now I'm going to spend time with family. And similarly, I'll spend a day and a half over the weekend with family and go, I've recharge that battery. I've filled that bucket. And then I can now, on a Monday morning, get straight back into work and continue where I left off. I find when I don't have a successful week, or when I don't do enough and I procrastinate and I don't take action during the week, I spend the whole weekend dwelling and regretting and feeling like, oh, there's these things I still need to do and I should be doing. Therefore, I'm not present with family. I don't enjoy that family time. I don't recharge. And then Monday morning, I go, well, I didn't actually have a weekend. And it starts that cycle all over again. So at the moment, I'm really focusing on doing everything I can to take action at work, and then fully all in and all out. And that's, for me, when I'm most successful is when I'm all in at work and all out at home.
But you run a gym, right? Are you
Yes.
open? When are you closed? Are you closed on Sundays?
We're open 7 days a week, but I'm not there for half of Saturday and all of Sunday. So I have about a day and a half off.
Wouldn't that be your most important time to be in the gym?
Weekends, no, usually kind of mornings and evenings, and the Saturday morning, and then we're pretty quiet. We do a lot of kid stuff on the weekend, but I'm not involved in that personally.
No, I was just curious because you seem to, like, I feel like myself personally have detached myself from the standard operating week a little bit, and you still very much talk to the weekend and that is separate time. And I try to bind it all together, like, and especially with kids now a little bit older than yours. So in primary school, there's often things that happen during a day, and I mold it all together and just float through and prioritize. You know, where do I need to be today, and sort of float that in and out. And then I'm sometimes my happiest doing a half morning on a Saturday, and then maybe something on a Sunday afternoon after I've been to the farmer's market with the family or whatever. I quite happily. I actually, in my preference, I prefer to do some work, some family, some work for the family, sort of every day. Really,
that's some of the benefits I've had by doing like what you've said, is bringing the weekend into the week, and then using time without compartmentalizing it. But that doesn't work for everybody, particularly when you've got a family that, with you guys with young families, they're only up for certain hours, and you want to be present for as much of that as possible, that you can achieve and equally achieve what you need to achieve in the office. I get that. But yeah, I honestly believe the anomaly or the situation we label work-life balance doesn't exist easily, or if not at all, unless you bring back in the weekend to level things out a bit.
Yeah, well, I guess being in the fitness industry, I've fairly non-traditional hours. Like, I start my work day at 6 a.m. and I finish it at about 7:30 p.m. Because we live 20 to 30 minutes away from the gym. During the day, I don't usually bother kind of going home and coming back. So my work day is from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. So is
that not something you could look at, though, moving closer to the gym? Or not really?
It will be long term. At the moment, I'm happy with the balance, and Ainsley and I've discussed it, and for where the boys are at now, being 2 and essentially 0, like, it's not a problem. Long term, we'll move closer. I'll outsource some of those hours, and I'll kind of buy back some freedom. But what I need to do at the moment is just go all into the business, do everything I need to get us into a better position, and then start to make those decisions.
That's it. It's interesting, though. I mean, I would have thought if time is your issue, then I would have thought moving closer to the gym to give you that balance a bit easier now would have been a priority.
Yeah, and I guess during the day, there's not a lot I can do at home anyway. Like, the times, Matt will know, as a family, is breakfast time, getting ready for school, getting ready for the day, and especially nighttime, dinner, bath, bed, etc. That's when you can be most valuable. And 4 or 5 days a week in the evening, I'm
taking classes.
Yeah, I'm teaching between 5 and 7:30 p.m. So at the moment, I've made that sacrifice, but I'll reverse that in the future.
It's interesting bringing this up. This is something I've struggled with over the years. I've tried scheduling a whole week and doing all of these other bits and pieces and whatnot. I don't have a family. I have a wife who I enjoy spending time with, and there is always a conflict sometimes around the timepiece. The biggest challenge is marrying up your expectations of your achievements within the time spectrum of either a week or a month, particularly if you're ambitious and you're trying to achieve big things. But the biggest thing I have come to realize over the last, is it's more energy management, kind of what you touched on, Matt, and that you can schedule your whole week out. I've noticed booking things that have external accountability work well, i.e. like if you book a client meeting or something like that, you book these things in, you'll show up and you'll find a way. But if you book something that's self-accountable, it can be pretty difficult to be disciplined to stick to it. Because, and it comes back to that energy management piece. If you had a rough night sleep, or you didn't go to the gym, or you've walked out of a meeting where we deal with clients and like they can throw a curveball and it fucks everything, and you come out and you just need time to take stock. If you're the business leader, you have this tough conversation with some team members and stuff like that, and people I don't think understand the emotional boxing ring that as a business owner that you go through on a day-to-day basis, and you have to really mentally, Matt, I give huge kudos and respect to yourself for doing the stuff in the morning and then coming in and having to show up for your team and have that mental space. And you've literally got to, when you step in that door, you literally got to leave everything behind. And that can be a hard thing, to come in after a hectic morning, the kids are sick and all this other stuff that you share, and then expected to sit down and do like your routine thing, like make some business sales calls. That can be hard to get into. So this is where it's kind of like energy management, and I think having maybe not too of a tight schedule and keeping things a little bit loose, but having those non-negotiables, and that like it's okay to take a half an hour break. Or the other biggest thing is like it's okay to go, say, like for us who don't own a gym and live in a gym, you got to go work out maybe, or maybe at 3:00 you have to go for a run, even though that's maybe not the norm, because you need to get the body moving again. You've had a shit day, and then you might work a little bit later into the evening. A couple of those things have worked really well for me. And like the gym, and I think the last couple of weeks it's dropped slightly. I haven't completely stopped, but that's been a big thing for me, that consistency of working out to help maintain energy. And it's really about energy management. Has been probably the biggest shift for me, because I tried to block out everything from minute to minute in the week. And I've actually shared on this podcast a couple of attempts at that in the real early episodes. I go way back to episode like 10 or 5 or something. And it takes energy to stick to your schedule.
Yeah, because you're defeating the inertia you've created through the bad habits in the past. Because that's all it is. It's just momentum.
It's not that bad. Like the more I'm organised,
I like that word, inertia.
It's good. It's a good word. Kind of like cadence.
Yeah.
It's easier in some ways to go and adjust. Like what happens is things happen a lot. There's some reason. I mean, this morning's a great example. The little guy's 5 weeks old. He's got a cold. Okay, that's really tough. The last 48 hours, my wife Tash has barely been able to put him down. We've got 2 other kids. I wanted to be in the office at 7. That was my plan. At 6:00, I'm like, look, listen, I'm gonna look after the other kids, get them organised, do breakfast, do the lunches, like just get everything organised, and let Tash effectively lie in with Nicholas for another bit of time. Look, it burnt an hour and a half. It's also probably one of the most important hour and a half time slots of the day, because that's probably when I'm at my peak, like ability to sort of work on project work or other things, and be very fresh and do that. But that's what happens. But I found that
Zero guilt?
This morning, pretty good. Sometimes there's a lot. Sometimes there's a lot more guilt.
So not zero. But no, I say that
5%.
because I've been there and I know what you mean.
Yeah. And sometimes there's a lot of guilt, right? But what I've found is that if I'm more organised and then if I have to make some adjustment to my schedule, I'm better in that frame. So I have got I've got a loose set of blocks of what the week looks like and what has to go where. And largely I stick to that with a few exceptions that drop out. And I've managed, and it took me a long time, but it's now my habit that I spend roughly about 30 minutes a week sort of mapping out just on paper the next week and make some adjustments and move things around. And that always ends up moving and changing a little bit, which is annoying because it's on paper, but that's not my proper calendar. My calendar's in obviously digital, but I use it as a mapping tool to add a few key things that have to happen on days, the odd errand, whatever needs to happen, and just to frame up like what might be a little bit more successful of a week, rather than if I just floated into it haphazard. And to add to that, we talked about success and we might define it a little bit, but like the truth is we have our own definition, and every week of mine is probably successful. It's just, have I emotionally dealt with that correctly? If my perspective is correct, then it's been successful. If my perspective is,
if you don't change where, let's say things pop up, right? Like in a week you want to achieve so many things, and let's say Nicholas gets sick or something else happens and you deviate. When you don't move what you want on the other side, which is no problems if you can deliver it, but if it's impossible to deliver and you don't move that peg, you can't help but trigger the hormones that go around failure and guilt and depression.
which I've done to myself a lot, right?
Yeah, no
I've
doubt.
definitely done that
I've
significantly.
done it to myself.
Yeah, and
So you got to repeg yourself. You have to repeg yourself.
going back to David Dieter as well, which we've talked about, this is the way of the superior man a few times recently, and he said just one line in that book was just stop hoping for completion of anything in life. And it's true. Like we always, I'll get this bit done and I'll do this and then I can start working out, or I can do this.
I
can
just
do
get
that.
this sorted and then.
And that's why you have to keep repegging. And that's why I do that one-page thing, right?
It's funny, Jacob said the
it.
exact same stuff just before, like with when you said about the moving. That was the exact phrase. I've got to get a few sorted and then we'll sort.
Yeah.
When I draw it,
But you've got to repeg things.
when I draw it on the page, it becomes obvious because it's like, well, there's no fucking way I could fit anything else in there. Like, it's done. Like, it's overdone. And I've written, a couple of errands, these appointments, this happens there. That's where I've got to do this for the kids. Like, okay, it's full. It's full, and that's that.
A sailboat doesn't move without wind, right? We understand that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you pitch opposite to the wind to capture the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we all know what happens with wind. It changes direction. But if you don't change your pitch, you ain't going to stay in the wind for long, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so the greatest sailors are always adjusting the sail.
Yeah, it's a constant battle between your highest vision and purpose for your life and then breaking that down into years and months and days for your goals and kind of knowing exactly the tasks and actions you need to take to achieve that. But then being okay with the fact that life is going to throw things your way that are going to impact that.
It's meant to. It has to test you.
Yeah, this quote you've got here, no plan survives contact with the enemy. It's right. You can have the greatest battle strategy and have everything sorted out, and as soon as the battle starts, that kind of pretty much gets thrown out the window. You can have a great to-do list for that day and be kind of, this is all the things I need to do to take me closer to my vision. And then you go and drop off the kids at school and you get a bit stuck in traffic, and then you get to work and then a staff member sits you down and resigns. You think, fuck, what am I going to do? Business is fucked. And then your whole day is derailed.
Don't even.
And then you think, well, now I've got to solve that problem. And you jump on LinkedIn and you apply for you chuck up a new role, and your whole day is derailed. The next day you've just got to go, let's just restart that plan. Let's get back on track. And then
That's where it's, I think, energy.
You got to come back, right? So it's okay to be taken off. It's okay, all right?
You
It's
get
going to
pushed
happen.
You get pushed off
the
path.
more resistance you take to the path changing, you can't change some things, right? You can only control what you control.
Yeah.
But that's where I think energy and mindset management is also
You don't waste time.
key to that, because like if you dwell on things like or whatever, you are slower to build the momentum, or if to build up that momentum again. And if you're in a bad negative headspace, you might have stuff going on that is going to slow you down. And I think it's also an element of like not beating yourself up so much. And I think, you know, Matt, one of your biggest, I know definitely is frustration, and even for myself, like when those things don't marry up.
Flavor
of suffering. Yeah,
Absolutely.
frustration. Because everything fucking takes longer than
mine's
what
that
you
as well.
expect.
Yeah.
Everything takes longer than what you expect.
Well, the thing about these little daily things is that there are just little daily things, or they're an hour or 2 hours, and sometimes that 2 hours might, you know, make you less effective for 6 or 8 hours. But the thing is, then you come back to, okay, well, I've got a solid monthly budget. It shouldn't impact that monthly budget. There's enough time for it to be resolved within that time. But when we're not clear on, you know, slightly longer term, not even long term, but they're short term, but just the like larger than a day, you know, larger than a week, larger than a month, we should be able to get more comfortable there. And look, it's definitely something I've struggled with, but it's something that I've done, or I'm starting to do a lot better, and it's becoming just more apparent that I have to be disciplined and mostly disciplined in that emotional management, because these things are going to come at you constantly, and as they will, and the bigger the business, the bigger the family, the bigger the whatever, it's going to be there.
Well, I think Conrad, you've reminded me a lot of this lately as well. Is don't feel guilty about looking after yourself either, and taking the time out if you need to as well. Like,
yeah, you got to be responsible, right?
Yeah.
You got to be responsible with you first.
You know, whether like you might have an expectation to do a project or whatever, but if you're in a shit headspace, how many times I've been guilty of this? Like, I've got this time slot booked, or it might be a Thursday, not Thursday because we've got brekkie. It's a bad choice of a day, but it might be a Wednesday morning. I've got this project. Oh, yep, I'm going to do this project time. And you rock up to 8 o'clock and you're like, fuck. And then you just like...
It did that too well. I think it might happen quite often.
Yeah, and then you sit there, and then the next minute you're on Messenger and you're like just doing shit, or you're perusing on Instagram, as Jacob likes to put it, and 20 minutes later you're like this and that, and you do a little bit and you're like, oh, fuck it, and then like 2 hours later and you're done fuck all, and you're like, oh, what, you know, and what a waste of time. Whereas if you had the right headspace and you came into it, like sometimes
It's responsibility.
you're better off doing something else,
Yeah.
And then maybe coming back to it.
I do
later
that
on.
often, right? I mean, you know, I'm sleeping a lot better than I ever have. But if I wake up, I won't waste time trying to force myself to get back to bed. You know, because that's half the battle. And then you waste time trying to think, okay, count sheep, we can do something else. And you wasted 20, 30 minutes, and you might get back to sleep, but the quality of sleep won't be there. So I just get out of bed and start doing shit.
Then go for a nap later.
Yeah. Well, the truth is you got to. You just got to honour yourself. You know, most of the time we don't honour ourselves. You know, if you're going to put yourself through the turmoil of exactly that, you know,
Or
the torture of procrastination, you're not honouring yourself, and you're not honouring the people around you. Your family, your friends, your colleagues, your team members, you're not. You know, you're actually disrespecting everybody, including yourself.
Yeah, and I felt those moments where I'm because I start my day early and finish it late. During the day, sometimes I'll train, I'll do whatever, but there are moments where I go, well, I feel like I'm wasting time here. I'm tired, I'm burnt out. I've had a shit couple of conversations or whatever, and if I didn't have to be here at 6 p.m. for a class, I'd just go home and kind of call the day there, go home, re-energize with family. But sometimes you have appointments, you have meetings, you have things that kind of go, well, I just have to do this anyway, and that's part of that responsibility and the action.
Well, you've got to find the time to do it somewhere. Okay, otherwise you've got to change the end goal. Does that make sense? So come back to my cardio sessions last month. You know, I budgeted or scheduled 2 sessions a week, and second week in, I missed the week. And so the third week, I had to do at least 4 to catch up. Yep. And in doing 4, I figured out, well, I've got space for 4. I'll do 3 for the next one. And that's what happened, right? So what I ended up doing, because you've got to play makeup. Too many times we burn, you know, in doing exactly what you just said, right? I'm not dialed in, I'm going to go home, which is fine, no problems. But when does that get done?
You should just go home next time, man. The question is, well, I've got a question in there. It sounds like you keep saying that you need, and look, you keep saying you need the family time to re-energize. So
which means your work's taking your energy.
yeah. So how are you framing your work? And because I don't see. I get tired doing whatever, everything I do. Like you know, obviously still you're busy, you're doing things. Yeah, sometimes you limit your sleep. You know, whatever you get tired. But I don't find that I get like the office takes all my energy out, and then I don't find that like the kids and that they don't take all my energy out either. Like it seems that you. Like it's somewhat of a burden in a sense. And maybe, as an example, maybe you should just straight away go home at 9:30 and go and spend 4 or 5. Like the kids are home, right?
Yeah.
So
Go watch a TV show with
you
them.
can't help Ainsley with the bath, but go and hang out with them.
Let her go to the shops. Let her go and get her energy back.
Yeah.
Here's something for you. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. We know what the word passion originated from, right? Which is to suffer. Stress and passion are the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Just with a different destination.
Yeah. And most of the time I'll spend all day kind of at the gym and it won't feel like work. I'll enjoy it. I'll love it. It's just every now and then, it's especially the days where I haven't done the work and I haven't been productive and something else has been on my mind. Or the week before I've had a shit week and I haven't done anything and then I had a bad weekend. That's when I kind of, by Tuesday, I'm just kind of a bit burnt out. And that's I think when whether it be just getting out of that space for a little bit and sometimes I'm the only one there, so it kind of feels a little bit lonely, I guess, at times. But most of the time I'll put on a show. I'm becoming more okay with procrastination when it's on my terms. Is going, well, I'm not really achieving anything at the moment. I just need to take a break. I'll have lunch. I'll put on a show. I'll sit there, and then I'll get back into things. Because I know, like, I'm not productive if I'm just sitting there doing whatever.
I think the key is like marrying up to whatever your expectations, are, and
No, that's bullshit. It's not your expectations, particularly when you've got family. It's their expectations of you too.
Yeah.
So you got to frame it with them. Because if you're going to take time out to go to the movies, and I'm just saying because I've done that.
Yeah.
All right, I go to movies regularly I say regularly. Not that regularly, but I don't mind going to the movies during the day to break my day up. But I'm taking time away from my family or my friends or my loved ones where I want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Because still got to get the work done. But if I need the mental space to come back and focus on something, then that's what I've got to do.
And I know that gap that you're talking about there. And I've never run a gym, so I understand that there's quite a big gap there. And almost every fitness professional I've ever spoken to has complained about that gap. Other than the few that I knew that had moved like within hundreds of meters of their gym to solve that riddle. But sometimes because I told the kids I would get there, like I will go and do a 20K or a 40K round trip to see them for 30, 40 minutes before I roll back out that night again. I need to come back to work or back to the same place or whatever. And sometimes that can energize me enough. To go on and do another half day on top, and I've gone and honoured them because you're only going to see them for half an hour a day.
Just turned into a Jacob session again.
That's okay.
No, but I'm saying these are the same challenges, and this is what I wanted to talk about because at times I'd done exactly what you're saying there as well, and I've realised that there's other ways around this, and time is not the challenge, even though it's perceived as the challenge, and these are the points that I wanted to sort of get out there and also just to discuss. But then, like, what do we consider a successful week? Like, we've tried to. I know, Justin, you've tried to map out time. I map out loosely and book into zones now, and it's worked really well for me. Trying to leave some freedom around it. The freedom was supposed to be for more creative type activities, and some of it gets used for that. But often it's just the overflow stuff I couldn't get any other time, and that's okay too. What about you, Conrad? I mean, what is a
generally
week?
don't do much on a Monday other than office stuff, and usually Fridays I don't book many other meetings in, so I give myself space, and I also have that overflow on a Saturday. I've always had that since I was 25 years of age. I've always gave myself Saturday to allow the overflow to catch up or get ahead, one or two, and so that's what I do. But yeah, everything else is I'm slightly reactive to meetings, but I'm not as reactive as what I used to be.
So that's very similar. Like I will basically book through Tuesday to Thursday as much as possible. Monday is supposed to be slightly more admin and Friday is supposed to be slightly more creative. Often they'll end up with a couple of meetings and that around that time, but that's okay. And then often I'll work a Saturday morning, but often I'll spend that time with the family. It's a great time with my family. Often
How
I'll go
can you
to
often
farmers.
work in the office, often be at home?
I go through different phases of the two, and if I'm not, I enjoy working a Saturday morning, but sometimes it's a good time to spend time with family.
A Saturday
also
to me is almost
changes-
like a 2 or 3 to 1. That's the kind of productivity I get on a Saturday.
Yeah, it also changes depending on what the kids are doing. Like if they're swimming this term and that's the right time, then I do that. If there's netball going on and it's 2 p.m, then I repeg, and I'll find that time on Sunday or whatever.
I just find everybody else is doing other things, which I get a bit of FOMO around, which means I crunch what I've got to do. And I do it in the hours that I do it with. And sometimes I go over, sometimes I've done a whole day in the office because I just get stuck in the mode of it, right? Which is fine. And I just blow away everything else. But most of them I'm done by 1, 2 o'clock. And I feel like I've done day and a half's worth of work.
Plus, you've always got to be aware, like we've discussed in previous episodes, it's not just about you. And like you said, Conrad, there's other people to consider. Is that if I was a single man kind of living on my own, I'd probably spend 7 days a week. I'd probably even set up a swag and live at the gym because I just go all in on that.
I've got one of those blow-up beds.
Yeah, I'd get a sleeping bag and that'd be me. But because I have a wife, because I have 2 boys, I've balanced that accordingly. And if you fast forward 5-10 years, if the balance is the same as the way it is now, I'm sure that will impact me more than now, knowing that like there's certain things I'm doing when the boys are 2 and 0 where, like you said, you can go home for 30 minutes and that's enough for them to be like, yep, Dad is home. This is amazing.
They'll OD on you in 30 minutes, mate.
Yeah. Whereas if that happens, I'll need more flexibility as they get older and certain things come up and activities. So I'm just cautious of that now, knowing I can go all in and the balance I've got now I find is perfect for me. But I just have to continue communicating that with Ainsley and going, is this balance working for you? Is she getting burnt out doing...
The psychological data will tell you that your presence is more necessary from a 4 to 8 year old's brain space.
Yeah.
All right, 0 to 4, they're only ever going to hear the vibration of their mother.
Yeah. So I know I've
So
My
you're
boy
just
who's-
giving them noise.
My boy, who's almost 5, has radically shifted his attention to me from Tash.
So I've got 2 more years
And
to...
how?
Because you're probably providing some feminine energy.
He's 4.5, almost 5.
Yeah. So I've got
Oh, no, 4 years age, yeah. yeah. So you're right.
I've got 2 more years.
You clearly...
You're good at maths there, finance man.
Yeah.
I failed maths at high school.
I've got 2 more years to go all in, and then I've got to...
But be very aware, because this is where I think we're getting it wrong, right? I bloody know we're getting it wrong, okay? Because that's wasted time. If you can do the work now and be present more when they're in that other age group, then that's great investment time. You know, that's great. That is the blueprint. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't think I measure or define a successful week. I lately have been trying to go more on a day basis to, if I can do this thing as a minimum on a day basis,
That's
because
most people can't.
then you lower the expectation just a little bit. Like if I get this one thing achieved today, that's a good day, because you will be derailed and distracted and things happen. So like if you can come in and like I've got a big project on at the moment. I've got to update all the role descriptions, right? We've talked about this, and I have been doing like 1 or 2 a day, but it becomes a bit sporadic. But I'm like, if I have made some progress on that, that's successful, because that's moving what I need to get done. And other ones, your sales activities and bits and pieces, because some days it just won't happen. You'll be distracted. So I think realigning what your personal expectations are help you to also mentally manage, but then don't, which I guess is like what we just mentioned, is like don't forego your responsibilities as in that
Communicate. You've got to communicate everywhere.
level of expectation. Like don't lower it too low, but don't have it too high. I guess kind of coming back to superior man, like living just on the outer edge, but not so far out that you keep disappointing because it feels like you're not going to progress and you're just going to be, it feels like a constant uphill battle. Celebrate some of your wins as well. For me in the last couple months, like just own when you have done it. Like, fuck yeah, like celebrate a little bit personally. I feel like that helps the momentum the inertia, keep going. So, on the definition of success, and even internally within the team, we've been trying to celebrate more micro wins on a weekly basis. So on Fridays and bits, we've set up some new structures, which we're trying to celebrate on a more micro level, so that the week feels like it did move the needle forward. Because you can slog it out for like 3 or 4 weeks and feel like, or you get torn, the whole family in this other bit, and it just becomes a burden, and it shouldn't be. I think if you can acknowledge the small
you've got
stuff.
to take yourself up high enough, okay? Because when you stay in the chasm of work and life, you don't necessarily see the motion, the movement or the momentum sometimes. But the more you take yourself out and reflect on,
It's a good point.
From an eagle's perspective, human beings are very organised beings. But when you're sitting in the middle of the city, it looks like chaos. So you've got to take that high level approach, and you've got to take that opportunity from time to time.
And I know
Good
for
point.
me that success on a macro scale is on a daily or weekly basis. Am I getting closer to my vision and mission and the purpose I want to achieve for myself and my business? Then I can kind of look at the week and go, we've made progress. There's very specific KPIs for the business, and there's cash flow, and there's memberships. There's all sorts of things that define progress forward. So that's how I can define, have we had a good week? And I measure that on the Monday. There's, from the family perspective, am I becoming a better father? Am I learning lessons? Am I spending time, etc.? Is my marriage improving? And there's so many different things you can use to define. But for me, it's just, am I moving forward? Personally, in business, as a father, as a husband, have this week I've made progress? Good. If I haven't, why not? Let's change that. Let's take action.
Cool. Yeah, well, look, I think that was a really good conversation.
Thanks.
It wasn't. It was more of a holistic approach to the whole lot, but I think it's really important because I think we can again try and set up these really crazy, radical weekly structures and only fail because it's too rigid. It's not possible. And I like your piece there, Conrad, about how, to step out, give it the helicopter view is more important. It does look like chaos, close up, but further back, it's far more organised than it looks. And I think you can, and I really just, from my point of view, my focus on my emotional energy, and that's everything. That also includes nutrition and all that sort of thing as well. And I focus on energy, and that's been a key piece for me to allow to tackle more. And have 3 young kids in the house, be a good father, run a good business, work out, continue to do all the things that I need to do, both for the business, for my family, and for myself, which is an important piece of helping me to do that for them all. And yeah, look, I really enjoyed that conversation. So thank you, gentlemen. And for you out there listening, I hope you got some value out of that, and you consider how you structure your week and whether there's anything there that could help you become just more effective. And we hope we've had some impact. So please share this with anyone you think has a rubbish week and needs to have a good think about how they live their lives.
Your husbands, your partners.
Partners, wives.
Your colleagues. Pull their heads out of their butts.
Sisters, brothers, children. Get them to have a think about what they do every week and how much are they in control of their week, or are they just being pulled along by old decisions a long time ago. So please share. Let us know. Let us know what you do. Have we missed something or not? But until next time, I host this show. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Travis Hato, maybe some other time. And we'll see you next week.
Haven't crossed paths.
See you later.
See ya.